Patricio Pitbull is back in Bellator looking for double champion status, this time for the bantamweight title. The featherweight king defends his throne against Adam Borics at Bellator 286 on Saturday night in Long Beach, California, and said on this week's episode of MMA Fighting's Trocação Franca that he's 2 wins away from challenging for the 135-pound title. Stay tuned while we get into what the Brazilian MMA fighter has planned for his MMA career. First things first, what's got him so fired up? Pitbull said that he intends to clean up the division one more time. The 35-year-old MMA fighter had already announced that his next challenger after defending the title against Adam Borics would be Pico. Unfortunately, Pico dislocated his shoulder at Bellator 286, so that part of the chapters is left unfinished for now. Even though Patricio plans to defend the title twice, adamant that he won't vacate it, the Brazilian also says he wants to try a shot at the one below. He plans to take a shot at becoming double champion one more time, this time going down instead of up. Pitbull won the 155-pound title by knocking out Michael Chandler, but he had no intention of remaining in the division. He claimed his sole motivation at the time was to avenge his brother Patricky Pitbull and defeat Chandler. With Patricio down the Bellator lightweight champion, Patricio wants to reclaim his title but has no plans to return to bantamweight. Pitbull, however, doesn't intend to go down to 135 pounds to win the belt and never defend it. If the opponent is right, he's willing to make the cut more than once. Rafion Slots is the division's interim champion while Sergio Pettis is recovering from an injury. Moving on, what does Bellator think? Pitbull said he already told Bellator internally and they liked the idea. He explained that when he talked to them before, they had the bantamweight Grand Prix going on, which he couldn't be a part of since he was short but very compact. The MMA fighter explained how his legs are very strong and his upper body is thick, taking a lot of factors into account. He'd need proper work for a fight but not a Grand Prix. At a Grand Prix, he'd have to make weight several times, one after the other, but for a title fight, he believes it'll work to take the legendary step. Next up, Patricio Freire managed to keep the featherweight title at the Bellator 286. The Bellator featherweight division will remain under Patricio Pitbull Freire's control. Freire won a unanimous decision over Adam Borics in the main event of Bellator 286 on Saturday night at Long Beach Arena. With the win, Pitbull retained his 145-pound title and now has 8 title defenses in 3 reigns. Freire, one of the best MMA fighters who has never competed in the UFC, won the title for the first time in 2014. The fight on Saturday was the first defense of his current reign. According to ESPN, Pitbull is ranked 3rd in the world at featherweight. His endurance and consistency as an elite fighter have been astounding. On Saturday night, Freire was superior in every aspect of MMA. He landed some clean counter combinations on Borics early on, landed some takedowns, and got into Borics' back in the 3rd round after catching a flying knee from Borics and using it for a mat return. Borics took Freire down in the 5th round but couldn't capitalize, and Pitbull swept with a Kimura submission attempt. Freire has won 2 in a row and 9 of his last 10 fights, with his only loss coming to rival AJ McKee. The Brazilian-born fighter is also a former Bellator lightweight champion, having defeated current UFC lightweight contender Michael Chandler via knockout in 2019. Freire, 35, arguably has the most impressive resume in Bellator history. Borics' 4-fight winning streak was snapped. He was 9-2 in his Bellator career as a Hungarian-born fighter who trains out of Calif FC in Florida. Now let's talk about how the crowd wasn't exactly happy about Patricio's win. The audience booed for most of the main event, 25-minute duration. In some ways, that reaction was predetermined because Bellator 286 was taking place in Long Beach, California, and the fighter in command for every second of the main event was Patricio Pitbull Freire. Only 6 months ago, the featherweight champion handed Long Beach's favorite son AJ McKee his first and only season loss. But would Freire's performance in this weekend's unanimous decision victory over Adam Borics have been a crowd pleaser in any arena in any town on the planet? Very unlikely. The victory was the Brazilian's 34th in his career and his 11th by decision. He has 11 knockout victories and 12 submissions. Talk about being well-rounded or having no calling card. Finally, maybe it's time for Patricio Pitbull to weigh his options. Freire is the Bellator featherweight champion for the 3rd time. He was also a lightweight champion. He has won 9 of his last 10 fights, defeating some of the best fighters to ever step into the ring. Nonetheless, this all-time great manages to fly under the radar. Other Bellator names have come up more frequently than Freire's when fans have discussed which non-UFC fighters can claim to be the best in the entire sport. When he was middleweight champion, Gegard Mousasi. Corey Anderson isn't a champion but has looked dominant since joining the UFC. Pitbull is no less deserving. He just gets less attention. That could change in his next fight, which he has several options for. The 35-year-old could settle the score with McKee, who had a heart-pounding performance in the co-main event. Alternatively, Freire could fight at bantamweight and achieve an unprecedented feat in MMA by winning a championship in a 3rd weight class. Both options have drawbacks. By pursuing a McKee fight, Freire would be depriving his brother popular lightweight champion Patricky of that spotlight fight. And as for Patricio dropping to 135, we've never been fans of fighters losing weight. However, some have succeeded, including Freire's countryman Jose Aldo. Freire, who stands 5'6", has the stocky physique to pull it off. He might find motivation for his diet in the stakes in front of him, the opportunity to make history. Now on to other news. First up, Tito Ortiz recalls why he didn't box Dana White. White pondered why Ortiz had backed out at the time of the apparent snub, implying that his promotion's former title holder had seen how serious he was taking the fight. Later, during a media roundtable in 2014, White discussed how he had to go to great lengths to get the fight licensed, only for Ortiz to bail on weigh-in day. Now, during an interview with UFC lightweight Paddy Pimblett on the Chat and Pony podcast, Ortiz has insisted that White's claims are false, both in terms of the reason for his withdrawal and the suggestion that it occurred on weigh-in day. According to Ortiz, it was agreed that he would receive a 50% cut of any revenue generated by the fight. When it became clear that this was not going to happen, he informed White that the fight had been cancelled, and the former light heavyweight champion was adamant that the UFC president was aware of the cancellation a month before the scheduled weigh-in. Up next, UFC Orlando gets Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland headliner. The main event for the final UFC Fight Night event to be held in front of a full-sized arena in 2022 has been announced. The promotion arrived in Orlando, Florida for the fourth time in company history on December 3rd. With it, the UFC will bring Amway Center a 5-round welterweight main event between popular finishers Stephen Thompson and Kevin Holland. Prior to the booking, Thompson expressed difficulty in finding a matchup that both he and the UFC were interested in. Thompson will return to action for the first time in nearly a year, looking to snap a 2-fight losing streak to Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns. Holland is scheduled to fight again in less than 3 months following a quick submission loss to Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 279. Originally scheduled to face Daniel Rodriguez, he slipped into a 5-round co-main event with just 36 hours notice. Holland then teased retirement on Instagram shortly after. Finally, the Irish boxing champ wants a homecoming fight with McGregor. Dennis Hogan, the newly crowned boxing champion, wants a McGregor super fight after his big fight. Earlier, Dennis Hurricane Hogan faced Sam Eggington for the IBO super welterweight title. This was the Kildare native's 4th world title defense as he traveled to Newcastle for No Limits Super Saturday card. The 37-year-old understood that his 4th title defense was a make-or-break moment in his career. However, even before his career-defining title shot, Hogan had his sights set on a red panty night. Hogan's management claims to be in talks with McGregor about a homecoming fight between the two. Despite his absence, McGregor has faced a slew of opponents, including Jorge Masvidal, Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, and everyone in between. None of them, however, can provide McGregor with what Hogan can, a truly all-Ireland spectacular homecoming. Hogan stated if he won, the first thing he'd do is call Coach Kavanaugh and ask, is there any chance Conor might want this? And wouldn't you know it, just days after making these remarks, Dennis Hogan won his first title, capturing the IBO super welterweight title in a majority decision victory over Sam Eggington. So could a big money fight with Conor McGregor be on the horizon? That's a wrap for this video. He has managed to keep a consistent winning streak, but how long do you think Patricio can keep this up? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.